In November 1581, a violent outburst by Russia's Tsar Ivan IV, known as Ivan the Terrible, may have cost him not only his heir but the future of his dynasty. According to widely accepted reports, the Tsar struck his son Ivan Ivanovich in a fit of rage, fatally wounding him. This tragic episode has become one of the most debated moments in Russian history. The event took place at Ivan's fortified residence in Alexandrov. Tensions had been building between the Tsar and his 27-year-old son, who was an active participant in state affairs. The immediate catalyst appears to have been an argument involving the Tsar's pregnant daughter-in-law. Outraged by her informal attire, Ivan allegedly struck her, causing a miscarriage. His son intervened, prompting the Tsar to lash out again, this time striking the young man in the head with his staff. Contemporary foreign observers, including the Jesuit envoy Antonio Passavino, relayed reports of the incident. Passavino described the Tsar cradling his wounded son in anguish, trying desperately to summon medical help. Despite their efforts, the younger Ivan died a few days later. Although official Russian chronicles omitted any violent cause, several sources from the time mention the fatal quarrel, suggesting the truth was known but deliberately unrecorded. The official silence likely stemmed from the theological impossibility of a divinely sanctioned ruler committing such a grievous act. Nonetheless, 6 near-contemporary sources support the narrative of patricide. Foreign merchants and diplomats echoed similar accounts, lending weight to the traditional story. Some modern historians have raised doubts, citing the absence of direct forensic evidence or clear official documentation. When the son's remains were examined in the 20th century, researchers found traces of arsenic and mercury, but no definitive sign of trauma, though water damage limited the findings. Still, the convergence of contemporary testimony and Ivan's documented remorse, such as his pilgrimage to a monastery in 1583, suggests guilt. After the death of his capable son, Ivan's mental and physical health declined. The Tsar died 3 years later, leaving only his weak son Fyodor, who was ill-suited to rule. Power shifted to Fyodor's brother-in-law, Boris Godunov. When Fyodor died in 1598, Russia plunged into the time of troubles, a period of political chaos and foreign intervention. The blow Ivan delivered not only ended a life, but destabilized a nation. With the heir gone, the Rurik dynasty's days were numbered. The eventual rise of the Romanovs brought stability, but only after years of devastation. The story of Ivan and his son endures as a cautionary tale, a moment of fury that reshaped a country's destiny. The last days of Richard the Lionheart. In the spring of 1199, King Philip II of France reportedly gave thanks upon learning that his most formidable rival, Richard I of England, had died. Known for his legendary courage during the Crusades and formidable battlefield record, Richard's end came not through a grand conflict, but at an obscure siege in rural France. While reclaiming territory lost during his absence on crusade and imprisonment, Richard advanced to the Limousin region in March, where a rebellious vassal had taken up arms. He set his sights on a small castle named Chalice Chabrol, a lightly defended outpost. According to one tradition, a local peasant had discovered buried Roman treasure, prompting Richard to demand the find. When the castle's lord refused, the king laid siege. Whether out of greed or an attempt to punish insubordination, Richard engaged personally. On the evening of March 26, while surveying the defenses without armor, he was struck by a crossbow bolt in the shoulder. Initial reports suggest the wound seemed minor. Richard even treated it lightly, continuing to command operations. The castle fell soon after. However, in the days following, the wound worsened. Infection set in, likely gangrene, and his health rapidly declined. By April 6, at the age of 41, Richard was dead. His mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, had reached his side in time. In accordance with medieval customs, his remains were divided among several sites. His heart went to Rouen, his body to Fontevraud beside his father, and his entrails buried at Chalice, perhaps as a final act of contempt. One enduring detail is the fate of the crossbowman. Sources vary, but he was said to be a youth, possibly named Pierre Basile. Some accounts claim he acted out of revenge, having lost family to Richard's wars. Instead of demanding execution, Richard reportedly forgave him and ordered his release, even offering gold. Yet, after Richard's death, this mercy was undone. His followers reportedly flayed and hanged the youth in a brutal act of retribution. Richard's death had enormous ramifications. His brother John inherited the throne, but lacked Richard's authority and military skill. The Angevin Empire soon began to unravel, and within years, England's holdings in France were drastically reduced. It's even speculated that had Richard lived, the Magna Carta may never have been signed, as his rule left little room for the concessions John later made. Despite his battlefield legacy, Richard's demise is marked by irony. A seasoned warrior undone not by a great clash, but by infection from a single wound inflicted at a minor siege. Chroniclers later added flourishes, tales of poisoned arrows and royal conspiracies. But modern historians largely agree that sepsis from the untreated injury was the true cause. In the end, the story remains a powerful reflection on the vulnerability of even the mightiest rulers. The true story of the Blood Countess. Elizabeth Bathory, a Hungarian noblewoman from the early 17th century, has long been portrayed as one of history's most notorious killers. Legends tell of a countess who tortured and murdered hundreds of young women, even bathing in their blood to preserve her youth. Yet modern historians increasingly doubt the veracity of these claims. Instead, they argue that Bathory was likely the victim of a politically motivated conspiracy. The early 1600s were a time of political upheaval in Hungary, which was divided among the Catholic Habsburgs, the Ottoman Turks, and the semi-independent Principality of Transylvania. Bathory, a Protestant with vast landholdings, was an influential figure in this volatile environment. Her family was prominent. Her uncle had been King of Poland, and she married into another powerful noble house. After her husband's death in 1604, she controlled an immense estate, making her one of the most powerful landowners in the region. Bathory's increasing autonomy, combined with her Protestant faith, made her a target for the Catholic Habsburg court. Moreover, King Matthias I owed her a substantial debt, which was cancelled after her arrest, raising questions about the motives behind the accusations. In 1610, rumors spread about missing girls in the area around her castle at Cactus. The king ordered an investigation, led by Palatine Georgi Thurzo, a political rival with family ties to Bathory. Thurzo claimed to have found evidence of ongoing torture at her residence. Witnesses, nearly 300 in total, alleged horrific abuse, though none were eyewitnesses to murder. Much of the testimony was hearsay, and under torture, Bathory's servants confessed to crimes, claiming she had orchestrated dozens of killings. Notably, no physical evidence of the crimes was ever presented, nor were any noble families known to have lodged official complaints about missing daughters, which would have been expected if the allegations involved aristocratic victims. Furthermore, Bathory was never formally tried, a clear deviation from legal norms, especially given her status. Instead, she was placed under house arrest in her own castle. Of the 4 servants accused alongside her, 3 were executed and 1 imprisoned. Bathory remained confined until her death in 1614. The most infamous claims, such as her bathing in blood, only appeared a century later, popularized by Jesuit writers during the Counter-Reformation. These embellished tales served as propaganda to discredit powerful Protestant nobles and women in positions of authority. Today, most scholars view the case against Bathory as deeply flawed. The evidence relied heavily on coerced confessions and gossip. While she may have been a strict and possibly abusive mistress, the extreme accusations lack solid proof. Her downfall appears to have been orchestrated by those who stood to gain politically and financially from her removal. Far from a bloodthirsty killer, Elizabeth Bathory may have been a casualty of religious conflict and dynastic ambition.